I will do the warm-up speech for Gunda, who will give you an extensive overview how we have performed in PISA research done by OECD. But welcome, and I'm very glad to be here in Lithuania again, this time virtually, unfortunately. But yes, I'm aware of those cultural and historical sort of like jokes about Estonians that we are so slow that hardly anything happens here. But surprisingly, under this image, we slowly and maybe sort of like unseeingly have developed an educational system which has gained attention quite some years now. So let me try to explain you what is the essence of Estonian education success, if we can say so, and how do we see ourselves in performing it. Just let me change the slide. I think any education system, despite how well they perform in any ranking or in any measurements or any feedback, still has continuous challenges. And we are quite aware that being on top of one of the researches or one of the measurements globally, there are still some areas we have to focus on. And I think those challenges are extremely evident and present over this COVID-19 times. So of course, we want to maintain our learner-centered and collaborative learning and teaching approach. This is quite crucial for us, but even more so, we would like, and we still emphasize the need of having the scientific or research-based educational system. I think even now during the COVID pandemic, we see the alternative approaches on diseases, alternative approaches to news, alternative approaches to knowledge. And this raises the question that whatever we do in our educational system, it has to be based on not that much on emotions, but scientific research. And just to move forward, the scientific research and analysis has to be part on any educational reform we make. So if we constantly, here we say we constantly debate about changing our curriculum, whether it be lower secondary or upper secondary curriculum, yes, one of the inputs is definitely the feedback from teachers, the feedback from pupils, and ever-growingly the feedback from parents who see their role in it. But of course, we need a scientific input on how it was implemented, what were the development, maybe strengths and weaknesses, and what areas could be improved. Also to find innovative solutions to promote the educational process. By that, we mean that, again, the debate about the hybrid learning, the role of digital learning, the distinctive differences between digitalization and digitation. So this has to be based on research as well. And now, even more so, the teachers and also the support specialists who work at school, they need evidence-based materials, methods, how to teach children in digital demanding environments. But what we usually say when we speak about our educational system is that it's built on school autonomy. You might be aware that, for example, Singapore has high scores in PISA as well. But despite of the fact that the outcomes are pretty much comparable, Singapore being slightly better, the system or the school autonomy, for example, is completely different. So we have the same results having different systems and different approaches to autonomy. So what do we mean by school autonomy here is that the school master is actually the #1 person in Estonia. politically, it's very important who's the minister. It's very important who's the deputy secretary general or secretary general. But actually, the most important person who runs the school and makes the decisions, and if you have any troubles or any choice, this is the person you look for. This is the headmaster. And why? Because they have significant power. We have the national curriculum, but based on a national curriculum, you have to do your school curriculum, and based on school curriculum, you have to do subject-based curriculums. So this logic and how it's done and how this freedom actually within the curriculum is used is up to the headmaster and the school team to decide. The organization of instruction is the decision of the school. The resource management, the state allocates the funds, but how it's distributed into different priority areas or into different subjects or financial instruments, it's up to the school and sometimes up to the local municipality. And personnel management, I think one of the most important differences here is that the school heads are they have the power or the freedom to actually employ anyone as a teacher with a reclamation mark that they have to qualify within a certain time. So in a way, it gives a flexibility that you don't really have to dismiss a year or look for the teacher who are still in high demand in Estonia. You can fulfill the position and work on reskilling or upskilling the person's competences. And the salary levels for hiring, promotion, dismissal, it's all up to the headmaster. Let's speak about teachers, because teachers have a lot of influence. What is the study outcomes? How did the students perform? Overall, teachers in Estonia is one of our main challenges. Average teacher is about 50 years old, dominantly female, and been working for the profession for quite some decades. We lack teachers. We lack them basically in each subject, in each region. And just to emphasize, if the whole cohort who would graduate this spring, the upper secondary school, would go to study for a teacher profession, even then you would lack teachers. So this demand, this deficit is so high that we are forced to look for alternative solutions. Of course, our teachers are highly educated. The master's degree is dominant. But since we lack them, we as a state have created some alternative approaches how to promote the teacher profession. So we have this program called Back to School, which targets young graduates from different professions to start the teacher profession. Centrally, we pay them annual salary. We help them to train, to have a practice, to have a academical additional knowledge if it's needed. Then we have the program which lures sort of like 40 plus professional people to have a career change and to become a teacher, to give back to the society. And this is also pretty popular program. And then we have the approach which focuses on sort of like teaching bites that you commit for one subject for a year. Let's say me, with legal background, studying a law degree, I could go for let's say being a history teacher for a year, and teach only one subject in one grade or in several grades if this fits to my agenda. And this is that. So I will go there to help for the full academic year. So this is the part where teachers are entering also through the non-traditional routes. What has changed in lower secondary, not lower secondary, in primary education is that we used to call the persons who help children nannies or nurses, but now it's official and it's very much used that everyone is a teacher, even in a kindergarten or in a school, the same approach, they are teachers. And it also reflects in salary as well, because the salaries is something that has been increasing quite fast in Estonia, and it has been a national priority for several years now. The teacher profession still is something we have to work on because based on TALI's results, teachers are valued in a society, but they themselves see that the support of the society could be even bigger. So their role in the society should be more valued. What else? Some years ago, we implemented the teachers' professional standards, something we used to have many years ago, but becoming independent, this was kind of like sort of abolished, and now we introduced them again, just to raise the awareness of good quality of teaching, and at the same time, while having an alternative approaches or non-traditional routes to teaching, we still emphasize that the profession is highly valued and it has its standards. So nevertheless, giving up any quality is the message here. Digital transformation has been sort of like a core message for Estonia for a decade now. And digital skills and competences is something we work on despite of the subject or despite of the school level. What does it mean? That we actually measure digital skills in 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. In vocational education, we measure digital skills for teachers as well. So this is something we work on, digital skills as in the sense of general competence. We have had dual approach to learning materials for some time now, which means that 7-8 years ago, we introduced first full sets of digital learning materials, but on the side, we kept the availability of paper-based books and notebooks, workbooks as well. And this has become extremely handy at the moment when the learning is forced to be hybrid or based slowly at home, that children and pupils can actually use or choose what kind of materials they would like to use for hybrid learning, and what is the most relevant for their own approach. But yes, it's a double sort of like a demand that when you issue as a private company, when you issue let's say geography book for 9th grade, at the same time you have to issue it in a digital form. So this is a demand. Otherwise, you can't do that. Yes, we are sort of like digitally dependent in a sense that everything is in an e-form. So we have e-diaries, e-learning materials, as I mentioned before. Learning materials nowadays enable to track the progress of each child. For example, we could very easily say last spring and this spring as well, that have the children been using the same study materials, let's say like in a spring 2018, and we could roughly say that yes, majority of them have progressed as they progressed in classroom-based learning, because we see that they have used those materials, they have used the exercises linked to the materials, and they've actually passed the diagnostic tests which are built into the materials. So there are very many pros why to use the digital materials and why to build them actually. Why to build them as a smart materials. We have several e-testing systems available, and national examinations are done still on paper-based versions. Digital versions are being tested, but we do a lot of level-based testing. So level is 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade. And those tests, whether they be in mathematics or Estonian language, foreign language, natural sciences, those are digital. And I would say that there's no aim to actually replace something. There's no aim to replace paper with digital tools or vice versa. The aim is to widen the spectrum, that we would have more options to choose upon. And what is very important to stress that we, thank God, have avoided making the paper digital. So what is digital has a different approach, whether it be a textbook, test, or worksheet. Digital has its own pedagogy, and it's not just making a PDF out of paper. What we also say about us, it's all about the mindset. We think that we are innovative, creative, entrepreneurial, a startup-like. The role of startups in education technology has risen tremendously throughout the COVID. It was just like a hotspot for educational technology providers since we made an agreement with the state that they provided those services for free. So that they could enter the market, they could test their products, and they could get immediate feedback. So this has been, for the edtechs, for the startups, very flourishing year. We succeeded blending the extracurricular activities into curriculum, and we will do much more so with the new curriculum reform coming up. We stress the physical activity, the need to have physical activity as a part of everyday learning, even in hybrid learning. If you could only see the creativeness of physical activity teachers, what they can come up with. You can even swim without water, believe me. And fighting against bullying is something which is a raising topic, and we invest quite a lot into this, and also to student well-being. And well-being being the last slide from my side, we do national well-being surveys since 2015. We do it in the kindergartens, in the lower secondary, upper secondary, and in vocational education. So we ask feedback from pupils, students, parents, teachers, school management, and we combine the data. We have a longitudinal data of the well-being. So this is something we are pretty proud of, that we have extensive overview of what is going on a school level. And this feedback is very objective. We have national counseling service established many years ago, which is a regional service enabling each child to have an access to speech therapists, psychologists, social pedagogy services, and special educational teachers. Again, this network and those services being present at school level and also in a kindergarten level have been very crucial over the COVID-19 period, because the mental health and well-being of children was the main concern. Because yes, there were students or student groups who were left behind, or who didn't have enough assistance to proceed with studies. And this is one of the areas, well-being, is one of the areas where our educational startups are blooming as well. Despite of maybe thinking that some subject-related edtech solutions are much easier to scale in the world, but actually seems that the niche or the advantage is the area of well-being. I think this is a good warm-up for Gunda. and Gunda will enlighten you about our recent PISA success. And if you have any questions, we are here after Gunda's presentation.